Good morning from Hanoi in Vietnam. My name is John Kyo, and welcome to another 10 by 10 series. In this series, I'll speak with 10 experts for 10 minutes on different aspects of digital transformation in the food sector in emerging economies. And I'm delighted to have with me today fellow Canadian Tanguy Etoga from Montreal. Tanguy, good evening to you.
Good evening and good morning for you. Thanks for having me, John.
No problem. It's great to have you at 7 p.m. in Montreal, at 6 a.m. here in Vietnam. Tanguy, the time goes very, very fast in the first minute. Can you tell us a little bit about you and also your company?
Yes, my name is Tanguy Etoga, and I'm the founder and CEO of Normex, a company that's automate food safety tasks in operations. So to have us, a long story short, because of the time, I'm a food safety consultant for 20 years, and I've started my company in 2011 with food safety professionals. So we do consulting across North America. And over the years, companies started asking the same questions. There's a lot of records involved in food safety management. So they wanted to facilitate the management of food safety tasks and operations. And that's how we thought about that platform called Normex. And the platform will automate all the tasks and operations so they can meet not only the requirements, but they can also manage the operation properly by eliminating paperwork.
Wonderful. Now, Tanguy, you've been in Canada quite some time. You come originally, I think, from Cameroon in Africa. Can you talk about emerging economies and digital transformation in the food? What has been your experience?
So that's a very good question because as we speak, we are exploring emerging countries to expand over there, Dubai, and especially sub-Saharan Africa. According to IMF, there are 40% of the population that have internet access. So that's not a lot. But what we've also seen, still according to that report, that grew 10x since 2000. And that's 3 times more than Western countries. So the country that we're in right now. So the gap is still a big gap, but it's closing. It's closing very fast. So who knows what happens in the next 10 years? So what we see is we see a lot of digital transformation across multiple industry, financial industry, agriculture industry, and agri-food businesses in general.
Gotcha. Now, I had somebody else on an interview as well talking about Africa, and they actually brought up an interesting point that there's a significant brain drain from Africa, like brilliant people like you who leave and don't go back or want to go back and do some stuff. So with that brain drain, what kind of pressure does that put on companies to get technology that where they don't have to rely on local resources?
Yeah, John, that's the question. That's the question because when I came in Canada 20 plus years ago, my goal was to go back and then do something about what I've learned here. And it's not really easy to do so. Even if you acquire a lot of knowledge, you have a tool and a platform that can really help. I see that as there are multiple factors that can play here. One of the factors may be the environment, the regulations, and the fact that it's not really easy to have this kind of system implemented. You have to follow the regulations. So even if the regulations are implemented and written, there are still some roadblocks in terms of the state framework and the country's framework. So you have to navigate through that, and that's what makes it difficult. When you compare it to Western countries, it's written and you know where to talk to, who to talk to, and where to go. And sometimes in emerging countries, especially in Cameroon, it's not that easy. So that can, slow down, the expansion process.
Yeah, indeed. So you mentioned something that's very important, of course, regulations, and regulations need to create that enabling environment for technologies to operate because, as you mentioned, the technology will help companies be compliant with regulations. So that's so important. So tell us about your experience, even in North America, of using your software to take all of the previous manual processes and automate those. What has been the experience in North America, and what kind of learnings can you take from your current clients and reapply that in the emerging economies?
So since we've started, the experience have been really good. The market has received the product really well. Why? Because it's here, right? Digital transformation is here. We're not talking about 10 years ago. So one is the first thing is it facilitated the management of food safety. Why? Because when you have food safety, you have a daily task, weekly task, monthly, yearly, and this is among different sets of requirements. So you have to remember all those frequencies. Usually quality managers do that on paper or they do that on Excel forms. But Excel is not intelligent, or it's not intelligent, or unless you know a lot of scripts. But the common people don't know that. So that's what we've done. We've been able to eliminate all the paperwork for all these companies, and we've been able to implement that really easily. And one thing that I see that can be a lesson learned from that is for emerging countries that will really facilitate also the requirement, because they are looking at being I wouldn't say equal, but at this international standard, which will facilitate trades for them. And this is a tool that can really help them. Even when we speak with them, one thing that we realize is we have to adapt to their reality. This is something that's very important. The way it works here might not be exactly the way it will work over there. So we have to take that into consideration and adapt, being flexible to adapt the system.
I think that latter point is very, very important. And over here in Asia, there are certain countries where Facebook is the internet. They don't know anything beyond that. But what I do like about the Facebooking of applications is you bring it into the local context. You make it easy to use. So that point that you're making, the local context is so critically important. I also like your point around it helps to facilitate trade, not only within the country, but if there's international buyers looking to source from a developing country, and if those suppliers do have software where the buyer can get a peek into the operations, I think that's very, very beneficial. Now, you've been around for quite some time. I've been around for quite some time. I used to head up consulting at Hewlett-Packard, and we used to sell software for millions and millions and millions of dollars, but those days are gone. Now, without giving away any company secrets, what is the secret to success in emerging economies with pricing solutions?
Well, when we speak with because we're looking at expanding over there, and without giving any secret, of course, what we've noticed is our software, it's licensed, it's a subscription base. So over here we're looking at monthly and yearly subscription. And one thing that we realized in sub-Saharan Africa, nobody will take monthly subscription. They're not interested in that. Even if sometimes it can be good for the budget, this is not something that they like to work with. So the minimum will be yearly, and because it's easier for them to work this way. And that's one of the cultural difference. Yearly, instead of monthly.
Gotcha. So let's walk through a scenario. We've got about 2 minutes to go, but let's walk through a scenario. You walk into a factory that has no software. You're in an emerging economy. Where do you start?
Well, I will start by asking questions. Questions like, how do you handle your food safety? And I will break it down by programs. How do you handle complaint, for example, when you have a complaint from a consumer or from a retailer? How do you handle that? How do you handle internal audits? How is it easy for you to use paperwork when you have agricultural regions, when you work with the different farmers, suppliers, etc.? How do you handle your suppliers? So I will start asking those questions to start looking at the gaps and the inefficiencies, and then propose a solution that fits their business model.
Wonderful. That sounds a logical business process mapping, and then to automate that. What would your top tips be for food companies in emerging economies? So if you were up in front of, let's say, 50 CEOs or managers in emerging economies, and you were giving them some guidance on digital transformation, what are the top tips that you would give them?
One tip, just one tip, you have to work with professionals, period. This is very important because professionals know the international regulation, and they've been working for so many years that they can help them aligning and get to that level. So that would be the most important tip for them.
Wonderful. Folks, there you go. There you have it, all the way from Montreal in Canada, fellow Canadian Tanguy Etoga. Tanguy, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today.
Thank you so much, John, and talk to you later.
Absolutely, and I wish you and the team at Normex continued success.
Thank you.